Kojima left Konami in 2015 after Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain was released, and 2 years later, Metal Gear Survive comes out. On release, Metal Gear Survive was bombarded with hate and called all sorts of names such as soulless, cash grab, disappointing, risky, and others. You get the idea. The game was not received well. In fact, people left to hate it so much that certain YouTubers banked on hating it and got pretty popular doing it. But did the game actually deserve the hate, or was it treated unfairly because of the circumstances of its release? Well, I think that Metal Gear Survive is a good game that got drowned in hate and got unfairly judged as a Phantom Pain reskin cash grab. Let me explain why I think that. A common sentiment I see online and from reviewers is that the game does not feel like Metal Gear. Well, let's look at that. A ton of new weapons have been added. A thirst meter, hunger meter, stamina and carry weight, and a life bar more akin to traditional Metal Gear games are present. On top of that, melee weapons have been added. They provide a whole new dimension to gameplay. Metal Gear Survive was clearly intended to be a different type of game than the Phantom Pain. I get it, the reused assets may make you think that this is like the Phantom Pain. But make no mistake, these two may be brothers, but they play and feel very differently. Survive plays more like an RPG. Players start out weak, slow and dull, and by the end are like demigods running around obliterating enemies easily. There are skill trees, classes, gear to craft, and resources to scavenge, all very new concepts for Metal Gear. With all these new mechanics added in, I don't see the reason why people expected this to play and feel like a traditional Metal Gear game. In fact, if it did, that means that the game failed to innovate with any of its new mechanics. As for story, Survive is the complete opposite of the Phantom Pain. While the Phantom Pain story was lacking in substance, the scraps that it had were told in a very engaging and cinematic way. Survive is the opposite. I think that it has a pretty interesting setting, but it was sold in such an abysmal way that instead of being a plus, it brings the game down. Here's a breakdown. Far into the future, mankind has created a very powerful nanomachine AI that has become sentient and desires unlimited growth. It started corrupting and assimilating everything around it until it had consumed everything in the world. But it was still hungry for more. Somehow it managed to open a wormhole to another dimension and also consume that dimension completely. It kept on repeating the cycle of opening wormholes and consuming worlds until the attack on MSF in 1975. That's where Metal Gear Survive begins. For this bit, I will be comparing Survive to the Phantom Pain a lot. I will address the complaint that this is a boring game. If you think that Survive is boring, then you must also think that the Phantom Pain is boring. In the Phantom Pain, the gameplay loop is very simple. Infiltrate the base, steal documents, or capture or kill enemy officer, and exfiltrate. This would be a boring game if players did not have so much freedom to do it however they wanted, with whatever loadout they wanted. They would go sneaky stealth or go guns blazing. It does not matter as long as the objective is completed. Well, the same is true for Survive. It has a very simple gameplay loop. Survive the zombie wave, and do it however you want. In the Phantom Pain, you could play the same mission 10 times, 10 different ways. Survive is very similar. I will admit that Survive has fewer guns, but it more than makes up for it by having a ton more gadgets and placeable defenses that still keep the core themes of freedom and creativity from the Phantom Pain. It even has a dismemberment mechanic. Let me explain one example. You could cut the zombies' feet off using spinning blades to force them to crawl, and then place flame traps to burn them alive easily. In fact, players have to get very creative if they want to survive the extreme difficulty missions, which are the hardest missions in the game. Metal Gear Survive is hated for a lot of things. One of them is the microtransactions that plague the game and make it unplayable. I have to say that this is absolutely false. There is absolutely no need to purchase SV codes to make progress, single player or multiplayer. If you think that, then clearly you have not played the game and are just parroting what reviewers are saying. Not to mention that the Phantom Pain also has microtransactions, and the same is true there. They are absolutely optional. Besides, apart from the $40 purchase price, I have personally not spent any money on Survive, and I have over 2000 SV points just by logging in daily. Keep in mind that I was very casual about this, and I stopped playing for about 18 months. Here's my con history. Also, SV coins can be bought using in-game currency during events, which are always active, by the way. The always online thing was not a big problem for me, but I can't speak for everybody else, though it is worth mentioning since I live in a third world country. These minor bad things are also in many other games, but people usually ignore them there. But for Survive, reviewers made these out to be deal breakers and a reason to not get the game. There was a lot of care put into making this game. Of course, you have to have played the game to know this. I'll give a few examples.
It's the last day of the year. Let's continue to give it everything we've got next year.
It must suck for the devs that put their heart into this game and then see the world despise it without even acknowledging the good parts, which by the way, I think vastly outnumber the bad parts. Metal Gear Survive was not meant to be a true continuation of Metal Gear. It was released at $40 and was clearly marketed as a spin-off title. But it was treated as if it was Metal Gear Solid 6. Mainstream media and reviewers kept comparing it to the Phantom Pain, while a more appropriate comparison would have been to Portable Ops. True, if this was Metal Gear Solid 6, I would be disappointed as well. But that's not the case, is it? In the end, what was Survive? Was it a soulless cash grab? Or was it a decent game that got absolutely run over by the Konami hate train? I think that it was a question. A question that asked, should Metal Gear have a future without Kojima? And the answer was loud and clear. Overwhelming hate and abysmal sales meant a clear no. And here we are, 3 years later, without even a sign of the next Metal Gear game.